Our coverage of Computex 2025 from Taipei, Taiwan is brought to you by Gigabyte, Trikes, Thermaltake, G-Skill, and Cooler Master. Hey guys, if you can tell by the stylized hexagonal logo behind me, I am at Cooler Master, and I'm actually over at their headquarters, so we can take a look at some cases, of course, some cooling products. But I'm actually going to start on an enterprise solution they have over here, because they're using AI to make the best coolers possible for NVIDIA GB200. You know, those chips that we kind of get mad at sometimes because they're taken away from gaming GPUs and stuff like that. I'm going to ask you guys once again if we can suspend that frustration for just a moment and try to step back to something we've talked about in the past, which is oftentimes high-level enterprise technology trickles down to the mainstream. And I'm thinking that is something that this might have a future with. So this is the CM-SPZY, S-P-Z-Y. They're using AI, and they're taking a bunch of pictures. You can see all those cameras in there going flash, flash, flash. They're taking pictures of a copper plate that's being used to cool GB200 GPUs that go into NVIDIA enterprise racks for big AI farms. The cool thing about this process is they're able to train the AI to recognize defects in the surface, because micro defects are something you want to minimize so you get the best possible contact between the cooling plate and whatever you happen to be trying to cool, such as a GB200. This is an example of the system that they have set up in their factories, because if you guys didn't know, Cooler Master, they make lots of stuff besides just a lot of the consumer level components that we might put into gaming PCs. They have a lot of other partners, so it's really cool to see this demonstration, see it in action. And I will say a practical use of AI, because what it's done is trained all those cameras to take the images. They take about 200 images. It knows what the defects look like. And then as the training continues, it recognizes and improves over time to make sure you have the smoothest possible surface. And it's just fun to watch it go right there. And man, look at all the copper they put in those coolers for the GB200. So since we started this week out with a lot of frustration and negativity, I'm trying, if I can, to sort of bring things back around to just the raw appreciation of technology. And I thought this demonstration was pretty cool. If you guys have ever watched one of my build recommendation videos, you probably know that I recommend for the vast majority of PC builders that you can get by with an air cooler. You don't need to spend $80, $100, $150, $200 plus on a liquid cooler. I mean, granted, if you want to do that, okay. But if you're trying to stick to a budget, an air cooler is totally good. I have been recommending the Thermalright air coolers that cost around $35 to $45 for quite some time, because they're a good deal at that price. Cooler Master is gunning for Thermalright with this right here. This is currently called the V4 Core, although they are toying around with some possible other names for it. And the beauty of this is, one, that it's going to cost about $30 when it comes out, and there's a black version here. They also have an ARGB version down here. This can handle CPUs in the 150 to 200 watt TDP range, which is the vast majority of CPUs on the market that aren't higher end, higher core count options. And the reason they're able to both get that higher TDP, keep the price down, and also make this an effective cooler, at least according to the demonstrations here, which seem pretty on point, is what's called 3D heat pipe technology. If you guys watched my CES coverage, you might have seen this already. Now you can grossly oversimplify this by saying, well, they went with a standard single pipe that's a U-shape, like with a lot of the traditional tower coolers, to adding a third pipe in the middle. It's not quite that simple though. There's actually a lot of detail that went into this design. First off, it's not like you can just add an adapter for that third heat pipe. The manufacturing of that and getting yields up has been a challenge. Back at CES, they were right around 50% yields for the heat pipe manufacturing. Now they're close to 90, which is why they're also close to launching this product. Here's an example of how they manufacture these 3D heat pipes. They start with a standard U-shaped pipe. They drill a hole down there. Here is the third pipe that gets added. It has a channel in order to allow the liquid to still pass through there. And you might be able to see down there in the bottom, there's grooves and powder inside the actual heat pipe itself. That's to help with transfer from the liquid to the copper and dissipate the heat. This center pipe here only has the groove, but no powder. Basically, that makes it so that the liquid inside is going to pass through this a little bit more quickly, which prioritizes those two outer tubes, and that is where, again, you get a little bit more airflow across the fan blades. Here is a complete unit, and again, part of the advanced development of this was making sure that they could do this consistently, and they've gotten yields up to about 90%. Is yields the right word? I think people understand what that means. Look for it to debut in early August. We have some additional graphics and stuff, but as you can see up here with the heat pipes going up only on the outside of your fin stack, you have an area in the middle that doesn't get utilized as much for cooling. By adding the third heat pipe, and there are 2 3D heat pipes in each of these V4 core coolers, you can have a couple pipes that go up in the middle, further utilizing the center space of the fin stack to provide a little bit more heat dissipation as the fan blows air across those. But I mentioned attention to detail. The fan is actually more effective at cooling the outer areas here. That's where there is more airflow flowing through. So utilizing the middle is a good idea, but only to a certain extent. That's why those center heat pipes are 6mm instead of 8mm. I think it's pretty awesome to get some more details about the development of product like these. And if you're like, wow, that's a lot of information about heat pipes, if the upshot is that you can have a $30 cooler, RGB or non-RGB, that's very effective, that can be an alternative to Thermalright and some other options that are out there. Competition, low prices, good hardware that works well. Hey, those are all the things that make PC gaming cool, right? Further down the line, we have some other products in development. We have a V4 Alpha right here, which is a beefed up version of the V4 Core. And then we have the V8 Ace right here. So this one is going to have not 2, but 4 of those 3D heat pipes. You can see the 4 central pipes going up in the middle. This one is still in development though, so keep an eye out for that later this year. And while the prices for these higher end models are not set yet, they are trying to keep very aggressive. So looking probably around the $40 to $50-ish range for the V4 Alpha, and then maybe around the $60, $70 to $80-ish range for the V8 Ace. About some power supplies over here. Cooler Master makes really high quality power supplies. So we have the X Silent and X Mighty series over here. These are already out and available on the market, but they have they made them sexier. So this is the X Mighty Platinum 3000, and I think we showed you guys this during our CES coverage. Of course, the 3000 watt power supply is a little bit beefy for your typical plug in the United States. So depending on your region, that may or may not be suitable for you. But look at some of the cool designs that Cooler Master has done on the side of these, just for the perforations, for the airflow, for the intake fan, adding some vertical accents with some more texture on the outside as well as the top. And you know what? These feel functional. I bet those help with heat dissipation as well. I'm gonna make that assumption, and we'll move ahead. It does. We have confirmation. That's not just for aesthetics. And then here's the MWE4 series, and I really like the design of these. So again, just a little bit of sort of vertical texturing right there, and just vertical lines, but pretty nice. And then look what they did with the grill here on top for your ventilation. Look, those are Cooler Master logos. The Cooler Master sexy hexagon, but they sort of overlaid it, so you got a double overlay. Anyway, the MWE Gold 4 series should be available around August. Here's the Freeform 2.0 system, which Cooler Master has enabled for their MF600 case. I just happened to catch the Gamers Nexus video on Cooler Master's display right before I did this video, so there's perhaps an alternative name for this case that might be floating around. Of course, I'm not going to sink to such depths as Steve. More to the point though, this case is already out. It's available. It's about $200. $200 pre-tariff price, so I can't promise that it's going to be exactly that in the US, and I'm not going to go into like how much those will be or won't be or anything like that, but there might be additional taxes depending on your region. I'll leave it that way. It's got an aluminum frame, and it's got these rails along the side and the corner pieces, and depending on the size of those, you can make the case larger or smaller, because cases can be smaller or larger. For instance, there's an MF400 over there that's a little bit shorter. That one is not available quite yet. But apart from the lovely aluminum exterior, everything is held on by magnets, and they have this rail system inside that allows you to really go all crazy with customization and moving stuff around wherever you might want it to be. So here you can see it's configured with 3 140mm intake fans on the front, but by adjusting these on the rails down here, you can move those up or down, possibly give yourself a little bit more room or clearance for stuff like radiators and all-in-one liquid coolers. The internal motherboard tray, the white pieces in here you see, are steel, but they do maintain compatibility with reverse connector motherboards. And this is kind of like the base configuration, but this thing can be completely moved around. So like your power supply shroud could be flipped and moved up to the top while you move your motherboard tray down a little bit to make some room there. You can take your power supply and put it up here, or put it down there. I really like the concept of this case, and now that it's actually available on the market, it's really cool to see. And one of the other things that Cooler Master has said that they struggled a little bit with in the past when they've gone for modular setups like this is add-ons, accessories, and things like that have been difficult to keep in stock because of how the retail industry works. But Cooler Master is developing their direct-to-customer sales model. So the plan is to continue to develop this series with additional things. So if perhaps you wanted to do maybe like a not tempered glass side panel and swap that out for something with more airflow, that might be an option. Or additional mounting accessories, other customized front panels that we've seen, which there's a few more of over there. Again, just providing as much flexibility as possible for people who want to customize their system. So their direct-to-customer sales portal, they're looking to have set up and ready early next year. And that's where you'll be able to, you know, maybe choose some alternative feet or something like that. Or hey, maybe you want a little classy side panel with the wood finish on there. That looks nice and clean. Or this one, some stone. So Cooler Master is inviting you to get stoned with your MF600 case. I'm feeling a little stoned right now. It's been a long show so far. Oh, and if I didn't mention, those are the sort of aluminum silver white versions down there, and then we also have the Masterframe available in a black finish. This is the Masterframe 600 mesh, which has, surprisingly, a mesh front. And then over here we have the 500 and the 400, again, coming soon. Speaking of some pretty unique builds that can be done with the Masterframe, here's the Masterframe 360, and this is actually a mod of the Masterframe 360, where they've added a stage up here. So you can take one of your characters and drop them in there. It actually has a LCD screen positioned behind it. I do not know what character this is, but maybe some of you in the comments can tell me who. Look at those details though. It's even got some spotlight shining down on the dude, so that's pretty cool. But this 360-degree case is actually going to be sold as a case by itself. So here is like the case. This one also has a really epic water-cooled build that's installed in it. But the Masterframe 360 Panoramic has, as is indicated by the name, a panoramic view with tempered glass on all three sides. Now there is a little bit of a gap right here, so that is going to allow some airflow from the sides, but most of the airflow is going to be an intake through the bottom. But as I have been ogling so many epic builds at Computex this year, I have a vast appreciation for this one. This is a Cooler Master block on an RTX 5090. It's a disappointing Intel platform to pair with that RTX 5090, but that's okay, you know, they got to work with all the companies. Reservoir is positioned up there at the front, and then if we flip around to the back, we can see the power supply, which is actually tucked in right there, and a distro plate. So you could see this potentially being an upgraded unit from that Masterframe 600 that I showed you guys. Part of what's enabling that wraparound tempered glass is this reinforced piece right here, which allows the frame to continue this way without requiring a vertical support. This case is going to be available later in the year, looking for it around August. It'll have an MSRP that they're aiming for of $270, although again, that is pre-tariff. I showed you guys the earlier version of the Cooling X at CES. Here's the Cooling X Pro. So this is going to be a pre-built, this is going to be like a heavy high-end workstation type build. Some cool little details on here though are these analog knobs. They're actually indicating the GPU and CPU temperature. Look, they actually move, like they're motorized. So instead of having an LCD display or something, they went to the extent of actually having little knobs in there. That's pretty cool. We got custom Cooler Master water block on the GPU in there, as well as the CPU. Power supply is positioned right up there. And then the flip side is like the cool part that you may have seen at CES, which is the entire side panel is basically like a radiator. But since radiators do get hot, they've actually put a side panel here to put some separation between the radiator and the four 180mm fans, which is basically like 2x360 or 720 if you include it all together. So that's how they're able to keep the system relatively small, but still provide tons and tons of cooling for those high-end components inside. The Cosmos. The Cosmos is like a long-running Cooler Master case line. It's basically it's like Cooler Master's like, hey, we're going to make the biggest case possible, and then we're going to have a bunch of different revisions of it over the years where we change things and upgrade things and have different types of these cases. So here we've got two versions. The one on the right here is optimized for air cooling. The one on the left here is optimized for water cooling, which is why if I swing the side panel open, we can see a full water-cooled system in there. It's the same CPU block and GPU block as in the Cooling X Pro. And then you guys might recognize the front of this. If you've watched any of NVIDIA's presentations on their DGX implementations that they put into data centers, they have this distinct look with this sort of soft blush gold on it. And then this material right here, which actually does provide airflow and has just recently been revealed that Cooler Master is the one who was developing this front panel. I was just curious like how this is made. First off, if you touch it, this is metal. It's not squishy. That was the first thing I learned, not squishy. I asked them about how this is made. I was given an explanation. I have boiled that explanation down to it's a nickel-plated sponge. They start with a sponge, they go through a nickel plating process, then they go through another process that burns away the sponge material, then it goes through a couple steps of anodization in order to impart the color on it, and then a final step to really color match. So this is allowing air to flow through. My question was, is this going to collect dust over time or something like that? Like in data centers, are these things getting like, do they need to clean them out very often? They said no, because data centers, or at least a data center that's going to be investing in like a DGX setup, they're going to have a pretty high-end air filtration system in order to minimize dust. For the Cosmos 2025, this version, you might need to clean it over time, but since it's metal, you can just pop it off, run some water through it, however you want to do it. Anyway, we're looking at these cases launching later this year. They're trying to get them out soon in the next few months, but probably we're looking at closer to the end of the year. The airflow version here has a baffling system of baffles, basically channeling the air intake at the front, so you have two separate feeds, one going back there to the CPU, and then another one down here for the graphics card, which apparently you can only install an RTX 5090 in there. I imagine you could do that elsewise if you wanted. We don't have a price for these cases quite yet because they are still in development, but if you like really, really big cases, if you've got the space and if you're buff enough to lug them around, there's a look at the Cosmos 2025 edition. Next, we have the Cooler Master Elite series, and again, I previewed the Gamers Nexus video on the Cooler Master display here, and he was trolling them pretty hardcore with all of these cases. The Elite series from Cooler Master is intended to be a more budget case, despite the fact that it's called Elite, which is usually referencing something that is like the highest of the high end. But sure, we can give it to them. They are Elite budget cases, and they all have Elite and then a number after them. Difference for me, I have the placards to cheat off of. So here we have the Elite 482, here we have the Elite 600. They're gonna have some unique configurations, like some of these are gonna ship with an all-in-one liquid cooler pre-installed. This one doesn't have a name, so I'm gonna call it the Elite Wood, right? Yeah, this one is the Elite 691 Wood. This one, I'm just gonna say Elite Wood. That was my nickname back in college, actually. We also have the Elite 692 over here, the 693 over here. We have a 302, which is a little bit smaller, looks like a micro ATX option, and the 502 finally down on the end. The good news is that since these are more budget-oriented cases, Cooler Master is aiming for some pretty aggressive prices. Some of these are going to be available for $50, $60, $70 price range. However, once again, that is pre-tariff. So we're looking for these to start launching in Asia Pacific and Europe in the next 2 to 3 months, and then they'll be coming to a broader market, perhaps the US. We'll see how things go with that situation in terms of imports, but look for that in maybe the 4 to 5 month time range. And again, if you guys watch my build videos, my recommendation guides, I typically recommend for most builders who are just getting started, a case in the $60, $70, $80 range is just fine. And these look pretty nice. Here's the Master Liquid Atmos II series. This is an all-in-one liquid cooler with a swappable unit right here on the pump. So you got an LED there on the back. Pop that on. That one has a fan built into it too, or if you want a little display right there, we got an LED display. So those are swappable. They have made some changes to this since we first saw it at CES. And one thing I should mention about this, as well as those Freeform cases that we were looking at, is Cooler Master is going to be sharing 3D modeling guidelines. So if you guys do 3D printing and you want to do some like really cool modifications, some super customizable things, that will be an option to be easily integrated with. So you know you could make your own little cap to go on here. Another product that we've seen from Cooler Master before at CES and Computex is the MasterHub. It's like a Steam Deck on crack, basically. It's modular. You can remove and add pieces, got analog knobs and dials and all that stuff. These will all also light up and have like backlit images and stuff, like these little analog controls. Very cool. And then you set it all up in the software. But the main point here, this is actually available for sale now. Cooler Master says on Amazon and I think a few other retail sites in the US. So if you've seen the MasterHub in previous coverage and you're like, that looked really cool, but then you're like, when's it actually going to launch? It's available. It's out now. Next up, we have these fans. This is the Masterfan XT series, and these are metal, all aluminum. The blades themselves are also metal. Now, you might think to yourself, Paul, a high-speed fan spinning with metal blades. What if I poked my finger in there and it got chopped off? And you'd be correct. That is a slight concern with metal blades. Now here, the benefit of metal blades is they have really high rigidity. They're not going to flex. They're not going to expand over time, which is a problem with certain plastic materials that are used for fan blades. That allows them to minimize the gap around the outside edge. They were originally aiming for a 0.8 millimeter gap, and they're intending to get this down to 0.6 millimeters by the time these are in mass production. Expect these to launch around the August time frame. We're looking at 3-4 months out, like a lot of the products that we've been showing today. But despite the use of metal, which is a more expensive material, these are not terribly priced, according to what I'm being told. Again, pre-tariff and everything, but $20, $19.99 for the 120 millimeter version, and $25 or $24.99 for the 140 millimeter version. And they have a few different finishes. The external frame, of course, is also metal, but this one is sort of a gray finished. This one's pretty cool. It's got kind of a subtle blue anodized finish on there as well. And if you're more about stealth, they of course have all black as well. Oh, and going back to what I started talking about with the potential danger of metal blade fans, these are going to ship with shrouds or grates, grills. Grill, I guess a grill would be the proper term to use, just to provide a little bit of protection when they're actually in use. Because yeah, these are going to go up to 4,000 RPM. That's pretty fast. I always like to do a little bit of simulation time on the Cooler Master DYNX racing sim, even though I'm really bad at it. Fortunately, it seems like we're in automatic mode right now. Interestingly, we are. I got a brake. I'm turning. See, I'm bad at racing sims. I hit the. Okay, that's what I get for trying to narrate at the same time, probably. How do you reset or go back or switch to reverse?
Start.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Try this again. I'm gonna see if I can focus a little bit more this time around. I'll just take this corner like an elderly driver or something like that. The DYNX Racing Sim is probably a little bit rich for the blood of most of my viewers, but for anyone who maybe you run an arcade or something like that, they do sell these directly to people who are setting up gaming spots, that sort of thing. And they have a whole new wall full of accessories for different adjustments and stuff like that that can be integrated. Of course, these things are even more modular than the Masterframe case over there. So, brake. Nope. Oh, there I went again. It's all right. That's why we do this as a simulator. I'm back on the road. All right, that's probably good. Oh,
Good.
seat back. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Here's a quick look at some of the custom builds that they've set up in that Masterframe 600 case, because if you were listening to me earlier and being like, I kind of understand moving stuff around, but I'd like to see it actually in practice. So here is a pretty standard layout with your graphics card. You have a beefy support down there at the bottom. They've shifted the power supply out a little bit so you can see that you have a Cooler Master power supply. Or, take a graphics card with a riser cable and mount it to the top. That's kind of a random mounting location for a graphics card, but pretty cool looking. Here are a couple more builds. This is actually using the RTX 5080 and 5090 GPU cooler that you may have seen me talk about at CES. Again, mounted vertically with a graphics card support. I'm familiar with graphics card supports for anti-sag. This one is functionally holding the card up vertically. And then over here, they moved the graphics card to the front of the case, so it's just getting blasted by that air intake from the front. And again, just using a PCI Express riser cable to mount it over there. Here's again a more traditional layout with the tempered glass side panel, and here is a look at the stoned version of the Mastercase 600. And that's the one that had the GPU way up high like that, and this one they said is set up in more of a silent configuration for people who like stone. Here is a look at that Cooler Master air cooler for RTX 5080 and 5090 graphics cards. They showed you guys this back at CES once again, but just wanted to point out the flexibility here. With the adjustment down at the bottom, you can raise or lower the shroud itself, and that will allow you to install your own fans, either 15 millimeter, 25 millimeter, or 35 millimeter. So lots of flexibility there depending on how much thickness you can handle in your case. His latest entry in the Cooler Master Qube series, which is a uniquely designed case, and they have a pretty unique color finish on this one as well. This one will be available in a few different colors. They're aiming for a $59.99 to $69.99 price points and expect it to launch in October. Since we have these uniform circle-shaped perforations all around the outside, it's providing airflow, but it's also providing mounting points for stuff like a handle. So you can lay this case on its side, or of course you could rotate it and have it in any orientation that you want. But again, just going along with the Cooler Master theme of being able to customize and stuff, you can 3D print or purchase accessories to allow you to customize the case. We've got some feet down here on the bottom, even an example of like a little tray or maybe a drink holder right there that's 3D printed. Hey, a little caddy for your mouse. That's cool. Cooler Master does a Case Mod World Series. This is the winner from last year that they managed to bring over here just to have it on display at the show, so I thought I'd show you guys really quick. Unique monoblock there for the CPU and GPU. We have a Founders Edition graphics card there at the bottom. This Cooler Master logo is actually part of the cooling loop. If you can't tell, the tubing goes through that. Yes, it has liquid in it. There's the reservoir at the back. Pump is running. And even a small LCD display integrated. This build was made by Tim Malmborg, so great job, Tim. This was one of the top builds from the Cooler Master Case Mod World Series. Cooler Master is just showing off some of their cooling components. We already took a look at the 3D heat pipes. Did you know that Cooler Master actually makes lots of stuff for other companies, like the cooling solution for ASUS laptops? Several of those are on display right here. And then I was handed this right here. Look at that. That's a vapor chamber right there. That's like a credit card thin vapor chamber. So you can imagine, especially in solutions for thin and light laptops and stuff like that, how useful having a cooling solution that is that small can be. Some more raw cooling designs over here. Cooler Master also was a pioneer for 3D vapor chamber technology, where they can take a vapor chamber of various sizes, add heat pipes to it. The benefit there is that you get not only transfer horizontally within the vapor chamber itself, but of course you get heat transfer upward through the pipes, which can be transferred to a fin stack. A fin stack, like that one, that's a little bit bigger than typical. Again, just showing you guys that Cooler Master does so much stuff that you might not even be aware of. A major telecom, I'm not going to say which one, they've done installation of cooling for all of their like cell phone towers, 5G towers. I know. Taken probably mind control is really what it's. It's a long-term goal, probably mind control because of the 5G. That's my assumption there. But again, like enterprise custom stuff made for that type of application, fascinating to see here. And again, just some of those details that you don't really realize unless you come and visit the Cooler Master headquarters and they're like, oh, not just PC parts, by the way. Look at all this other stuff we make. Here's some Cooler Master competitor products that Cooler Master actually provides internals for. Cooler Master makes the X6 pump that goes into the Aorus AIO. That X6 pump is also used in MSI all-in-one liquid coolers. Here's their GB9 pump that's used in this Aorus 360mm AIO, and a G10 pump, which apparently Cooler Master just wanted to save for themselves. That's a Cooler Master unit. And their G9 pump was used in this ASUS ProArt all-in-one liquid cooler. Likewise, over here we have a slightly more custom job. This is an Alienware PC, and you may have a love-hate relationship with Alienware, but they have been in the industry for quite some time. Hello. They do pre-builts and stuff like that. So Cooler Master made this unit, which includes one of their pumps as an AIO for Alienware. I'm going to give you guys a quick explanation of what this is right here. It's the Aquagate Max Retro 360. They're basically using similar to their all-in-one liquid cooler technology to set up some extreme cooling. Basically what they have set up right here is a single PC with tubing that is going over to this unit, which is dissipating the heat. Each of these units can dissipate up to 1200 watts of heat, and yes, you can potentially daisy chain more than one together. These are CDUs, or cooling distribution units. You can see over here where you would feed in the warm water and then get the return going back to the system. So obviously the single PC that they have set up over there, 1200 watts of cooling is going to be major overkill, but if you were setting this up in an enterprise environment, you could daisy chain multiples of these together, kind of like you can see in this diagram here. So you could have your desktop, your enterprise server, whatever's going on over there, and then keep it cool with all those Aquagate Max Retro 360 liquid to air mini CDUs. That's quite a mouthful. Wow, okay, Cooler Master had a lot more to show me than I thought. So this video might have gotten a little bit long, but it was really cool to see all the stuff they're doing on the PC gaming side, but also the enterprise technology. A lot of that development trickles down to the PC gaming components as well. So I think I'm most excited from a practical sense about the V4 Core cooler coming out, because I think if it's a $30 price, maybe it's gonna bring back that Hyper 212 vibe that Cooler Master had back in the day when everyone used the Hyper 212, because it was a good product that worked well for a very reasonable price. Wow, we could use more of that in the PC gaming world. I want to say a huge thank you to Cooler Master for inviting me out and for sponsoring my show coverage this year, as well as a thank you to my additional sponsors for the show, Thermaltake, G-Skill, Gigabyte, and Trikes. I have more videos coming at you guys real soon, so take a look at the playlist in the video description. You can also find links to my sponsors' web pages down there as well. And if you want to hit the thumbs up button, if you enjoyed this video, definitely do that. And leave Cooler Master comments about the products they're developing in the comment section down below. We'll see you guys in the next one.